This is the Conscious Hour, and I've talked a lot about this backdoor policy that southern states have about bringing in immigrants across the border, backdoor, and putting them to work. And this has been going on for a long time 20, 30 years. It's nothing new. And I've got some documentation that can prove it because I met a gentleman there in Texas a few years ago that explained to me exactly what was going on. But I want you to watch this first, and I'll get into it.
Here's a story. This right here is in Stonebridge Road and Cedar Creek Road in the North Midland neighborhood in Texas. 9 people, 9 migrants who were roofers. They were working on building pretty big homes in this North Midland area, and the ICE and Border Patrol Gestapo did an alliance with the fire department and the local sheriff's office because in Texas, in these right-wing towns and cities and state, they help ICE and Border Patrol attack their own workers. So what I want to share with you right here is you'll see the ICE and firefighters going after roofers who are literally on the roof working on homes, trying to build homes right now in this country. That's who you're attacking. So, Department of Homeland Security, when you get in our messages, and you're like, oh, we're going after the most violent. You're going after roofers who are out there working and doing jobs that these construction companies aren't able to hire anybody else. These people should be applauded and be paid more, not ripped from the roofs. Here, play this clip.
We are here and some people are being witnesses to what is going on. We can tell that some of them are actually concerned for their safety. As we mentioned earlier, we spoke with some neighbors and they did say that they believed this to be a medical emergency, and then they saw HSI, they saw people with green uniforms. We do know that they were trying to pepper spray a few of them. Like we've mentioned before, the Midland Fire Department is present. Midland County Sheriff's Office is also present. Earlier, we did see people with an HSI badge and police ICE logo in the back of their jacket. There is various witnesses to this. This is happening in a neighborhood in Midland. It is in Stonebridge Drive and Porterfield Road. We have been here for what is about an hour. As we are seeing, they are trying to run and try to get them.
And then we'll go from Minneapolis, Los Angeles, Monty, and let's go to Utah. This is happening everywhere. Trump's goons broke into a locked auto body shop without a warrant.
So we'll go back to the builders. And at the builders, what's been going on is this. I was down in Texas quite a bit years ago, and I met people who were basically from Central America. A lot of them were from Honduras. I actually spent a lot of time in Honduras. I went out to a food cart one day and sat and talked to this lady from Honduras, and we had a great conversation. And some other people came from Honduras. A few people came from Mexico, whatever. We were just sitting there talking. But I was down there so much, I kept watching these workers. And then pretty soon you'd see these workers that were doing roofing. And then all of a sudden, the whole team, the whole company of roofers would just disappear, and another one would come in. And I thought this was really strange. And I started talking to the workers after that happened. And they told me that, yeah, what happens is they work for a contractor and they don't make a livable wage. They're making way below livable wages. And they turn around, next thing you know, they're moved off to another contracting site working for another contractor. Okay, well, many, many, many months went by. And then I came back down to Texas for a reason. And then I was getting a truck serviced one time at a Midas, at a Midas muffler shop, literally. And I went in and I was talking to this guy. This gentleman came in, sat down beside me, and we were about the same age. And I said, hey, what do you do? And he says, oh, I've been in the construction trade my whole life. I said, really? I said, cool. I want to talk to you about something. I said, do they have a backdoor policy going on of bringing people across the border so they can work here for slave labor? And he looked at me with a smile on his face and he says, you noticed, huh? I said, yeah, I noticed. And I know one thing, that the people from Central America could build houses faster than any gringo, and they're fantastic workers. I used to build houses in Honduras. He told me the story. He says, what they do is they work them for a certain period of time, and then they kick them out, and they don't pay them at the end. So they're making money hands over fist. They aren't paying them a livable wage. They aren't even paying them a minimum wage, and turn around and then they go and have to go for another contractor, and this goes on. And I asked this gentleman, he was my age. We were like 73 or 74 years old. And I said, how long has this been going on? He says, a long time, for years and years and years. And then I looked at him, I said, you know what? We had the same type of thing up in Washington state as far as getting immigrants in here to work, but we couldn't get enough of them in because we had these strict policies. And then I learned from one of the wineries that, oh no, this has been going on. We had a backdoor policy, not a backdoor, we had an open door policy where the workers could come in from Central America, work, and then in the wintertime go back home. And that worked perfectly fine, but they eliminated it. And then what I found out later when I started tracking this years ago, I found out that what they were doing is they were never paying into Social Security. Nobody, none of these Hispanic workers from foreign countries were being compensated for anything in the future. They were used for slave labor. This has been going on for a long time, folks, and it needs to stop. If we're going to put workers to work, they need to be paid the wages that are livable wages, because if you look at the housing construction and how much profit they make, you're telling me these contractors can't pay these people livable wages? Sure they can. But this happens not only in the building industry, it happens in the skyrise industry. They were bringing in people from all around the world. And then all of a sudden, this thing happens and all these workers go away. So the question is, who's going to build our houses? Who's going to build our skyscrapers? You've just run everybody out. Who's going to process all our foods? We already witnessed that in California, and mass crop failures or harvesting around the United States this year alone. So really, what is this all about? It's about racism. If you ain't white, you ain't right, and you don't have a right to stay here. And that is really scary, folks. This is the Conscious Hour. Please tune in, turn on, and share this with everyone you know. Get this to become a talking point. We need to save our workers. If you come across the border illegally, that door that was illegal that the government's been allowing to happen needs to be opened up. And you card the people, you get their registration, where they're from, and they come in and work, and they get paid. In the wintertime, if there's no work, they can go back home and come back and forth. We had this policy in the 80s, the 70s, and the 80s. And about 1988, 1990, it started getting really strange. Here, look where we are today, folks. Thanks for tuning into the Conscious Hour. Please like and share. Share it with anybody you can. Share it to other social media posts so they can make this go viral. Thanks for tuning into the Conscious Hour. Please hit the like button, hit the share button. If you have a chance, please donate to the 501c3. We take this money and we give it to people that are in need. Thank you so much for tuning into the Conscious Hour.